Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. Now the portal is still purple, and you may get an extra void shard over the course of this weekend, so all hope is not lost if you've missed on your legendary. However, if you get to the end of the weekend with no legendary, no 10 times Siffy, you're going to be sitting on a pile of void champions, rares, and epics, and you may be wondering if any of them are worth building. Well, in today's video, I am going to cover 10 void champions that are rare and epics that are absolutely worth building and may in fact be your next 6-star. That sounds good to you? Let's get started. Just a quick reminder, I live stream every Tuesday and Saturday, Tuesday at 2 p.m. and Saturday at 11 a.m. So come join us during the live streams. We have a lot of fun. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and consider joining our Discord community. All right, so of all of the non-legendary voids, I think Coldheart is probably the most famous, rare at least, in the game. Everybody knows that she is as good as a legendary, basically. So I'm not actually going to put her on the list. I want to give you 10 champions that maybe get talked about a little bit less. Now, a few months ago, I put out another video. I'm going to try to put up a card here for that video called 8 Void Epics That Will Carry You. So I've already covered this topic a little bit, and I'm also not going to duplicate any of those 8 champions. Here's one. That video gives you another 8. Those are 9 more Void Rares and Epics that you can consider. And then I'm going to give you 10 more today. So there are at least 19 out there. So watch these 2 videos, and chances are you're going to get an idea about a champion you can get some value out of. All right, so I'm going to stay in the Dark Elves faction, and here's another rare, Paragon. You may have heard of this champion. He is often referred to as the cheese champion. He has this ability on his A2, which places an unkillable buff and an increased attack buff on a target ally for 2 turns, and if you book it out, it's on a 2-turn cooldown. So if he has no allies, then you can guarantee that he will buff himself with an unkillable buff that will be up for 2 turns on a 2-turn cooldown. This enables a lot of different unkillable strategies, cheese strategies, where he can solo all sorts of things that can be difficult to get past. So you can use him against Doom Tower bosses, you can use him to solo farm dungeons, you can use him in Nightmare Campaign. There's all sorts of things that you can get value out of with a champion like Paragon. And in a lot of cases, you don't even have to build him up that far. Get him to 40, maybe 50. You don't have to 6-star him. If you 6-star him, he'll do more damage, so if you're using him in a solo build, you may want him at 6-star. But this is a really interesting champion that can be fun to play around with. And if you completely missed on everything else, you might want to investigate your Paragon, see if you can have some fun. Again, relatively cheap investment, but I would build him with high resist so that he can get this unkillable off. Remember, if he gets stunned, that's going to mess up his rotation, and he could potentially die. So high resist, fast, everything else doesn't matter. Mess around with him, have some fun. Let me know if you come up with a cool strat for him. Okay, the second rare on the list today is Bellower. Now, I often talk about Bellower as one of the best campaign farmers in the game, but today I'm going to drop that, and I'm going to actually tell you this is a great all-around champion that you can use in a lot of places. So if you need help with wave content anywhere in the game, this guy can really do a lot of work for you. Every single hit is an AoE, so it's A1 AoE. And every single hit has debuffs on it. So the A1 has a block active skills debuff. The A2 has a decreased speed. That's a very powerful debuff to have. It is the lesser decreased speed. All of the debuffs are the lesser versions, but he brings a lot of them. And then the A3 has a 100% chance when booked of placing decreased attack and decreased defense. So a lot of really good debuffs that you can bring. Build him relatively fast with high accuracy. You can make him hit decently hard, but he's not really built for damage. So build him fast, build him accurate, take him into Doom Tower, take him into dungeons. He's going to help you out in a lot of places other than campaign. So if you've already got a campaign solution, campaign farmer, and you don't want to switch to Bellower, doesn't mean Bellower can't still provide a lot of value. As a rare, he's cheap to book and cheap to build out. So definitely consider this guy, especially if you didn't hit on any of the epics later in this list. All right, so the first epic on our list is Ursula the Mourner, and this is an amazing champion. She is really right up there with a bunch of legendaries, incredibly powerful champion, and you're going to get a lot of value out of a support champion like Ursula. Now I'm going to start off with her aura. This is ally speed in Doom Tower battles by 24%. So she can be your speed lead in Doom Tower if you don't have a better speed aura. And in fact, I use her in Doom Tower quite a bit. Her kit is also really good in other places. Her A1 is just a single hitter, but it does have a 55% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%. That can be usable on a lot of bosses. Sometimes you want to watch out for that, for instance, in Bommel. But this is a little bit of extra turn meter control on a single target. It's got a high chance of landing on an A1. Now, the A2 is a great skill. It is an AoE. It has a 100% chance when booked of placing a decreased attack on all enemies, but it will also place an increased attack buff on all of the allies. So you can use her in a lot of places with this. This actually makes her viable in places like Arena. You'll occasionally see her there. I don't think she's a great Arena champ, but if you need an increased attack solution, she's relatively fast, so you're going to get her speed tuned easily enough. And then the decreased attack can also play. Plus, you could even put her in a stun set if you wanted to get additional CC out there. Her A3 is a revive. It is the best revive on an epic in the game. It's better than a lot of legendary revives. It is a revive all dead allies, so everybody comes back and they get 75% HP and 50% turn meter, and then they get an increased defense and a strengthen for 3 turns. And that increased defense and strengthen go on everybody, by the way, not just the revived champions. This is on a 5-turn cooldown because any faster would make it absolutely broken. But one of the best revivers in the game, and definitely the best reviver in terms of epics, with maybe the exception of Godseeker Aniri, who has 2 revives, but both of hers are single target. So with that decreased attack and the increased attack, like I said, you can take her into wave content, you can take her against bosses. She even does decent work against clan boss. Again, just like Arena, I think she's a stopgap measure there. You're going to move on from Ursula. But if you're in need of a decreased attack on the clan boss, this is a good champion to have. Remember, it drops the debuff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. She does take a fair number of epic tomes, so that is one consideration. I love my Ursula the Mourner. I use her in Doom Tower all the time, but I also use her in faction crypts where she's an absolute god, and occasionally in fights against specific Doom Tower bosses. The next champion is in the Dark Elves faction. That is Psylar. My editor's son actually has Psylar on his Noob vs. Pro account, and she is doing work for him. He's got her to 6 stars, got her fast and accurate, and she's doing a lot of work. So the A1 is an AoE. The A2 is an AoE, really good candidate for a stun set. The A2 has a 100% chance when booked of placing decreased accuracy, which is actually a debuff we don't get in a ton of places on really viable champions. So she's bringing that extra debuff here. Sometimes it's a throwaway and you don't think about it, and other times it's really important. Her A3 is the power skill here, places a 30% decreased speed debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, and then also decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 40%. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. Now, this is the skill that really makes her so powerful. You need to have her fast, and you need to have her accurate. If she's not landing these debuffs and this decreased turn meter, then she's not going to bring enough value for her, because she's a support champion. She's not going to hit super hard. So you can think about her in a stun set, but you could also put her in all perception gear or some speed gear, maybe an accuracy banner and chest piece. And then you don't need to worry about the damage. Just go ahead and build her tanky so that she's always alive. And she's going to do a lot of work for you in any wave content, any dungeons, any bosses that can have turn meter decrease or a slow applied. So she's a super versatile champ, and you really won't have to swap her out in too many places. This is not a clan boss champion, but you could certainly use her in Hydra clan boss as well. Sticking in the Dark Elves faction is one of the old school Halloween champions, and that is Madame Serris. Now, I thought about not including Madame Serris on this list, and then I looked at her kit again, and I was like, I think I have to. One of the reasons why she's kind of fallen out of favor, well, there are 2 actually, is the prevalence of polymorph in the arena, because she is primarily used in the arena. And then the second is Wukong, because her big skill is her A3. This removes all buffs from enemies and then places a decreased attack and a decreased defense. So this buff strip has been replaced by Wukong's buff strip, right? For most players, if you have Wukong, you don't need Madame Serris. But this buff strip does 2 things that Wukong's doesn't. It has a 100% decrease attack and 100% decrease defense. And remember, she is void affinity, so she can't weak hit. And in addition, this isn't even a hit. So as long as you have accuracy, this can't miss. So it's going to be more reliable than Wukong's. and also it brings those extra debuffs. In addition, if you have built Wukong for damage, if he is your nuker, you might need another champion to come in and strip buffs off of the enemy team. So I still think that this A3 is incredibly powerful, but she also has a really interesting kit in other places. If you look at her A2, this is an AoE that has a chance of stealing buffs, 50% chance when booked, also places block debuffs and a true fear on anybody who has a buff stolen. So still has that block debuffs that Wukong brings, has that extra true fear, and then on the A1 also has a chance of landing a fear. Really good champion to disrupt the enemy, excellent in arena, but good in all wave content. There are certainly places in Doom Tower you're going to get use out of Madame Serris. I think one of the most valuable things about her kit is she has all of these effects, but she is void affinity. So you don't have to worry about weak hits. Just get her fast enough and accurate enough, and then relatively tanky. You build her kind of like Psylar, except you don't probably put Madame Serris in a stun set. Her passive also places a shield on herself, which can make her hard to kill if you build her tanky enough. And then in addition, when she has a shield buff up, she has a chance of placing a fear, yet another fear on any attacker. So really disruptive champion, amazingly strong in arena, but you can use her in a lot of places. Now our next epic is White Dryad Naya. Now just recently I was looking for Void epic tanks in the game, and she really is the only one. She's absolutely the best one. So if you are looking for a tank and you just pulled a bunch of Void shards and you hit on Naya, you've got your tank. She's got a great kit that's usable in a lot of places. Let's check it out. Her A1 is an AoE that has a decent chance of placing a decreased speed. Decreased speed AoEs are very valuable, and having them on A1s is really nice. So this is an incredibly useful skill. And again, she has an A1, so you could think about putting her in a stun set. I don't usually put tanks in stun sets, but if you needed extra control in addition to this decreased speed, that is an option. On her A2, she has a single target cleanse and heal. It's a nice strong heal. If she doesn't use it on herself, she will also decrease the cooldown of that ally's skills by 2 turns. This can be kind of tricky to speed tune in a clan boss team, but if you can get it to work, this can be an excellent way to help you build either an unkillable team or an infinity team. And if you're just using her in regular content, PvE content, this is going to get that extra heal, cleanse, and cooldown reduction out there somewhere on your team, so it's always going to be useful. Her A3 provides the large ally protection and the small strengthen. So a lot of additional survivability on your team can be very useful against clan boss or any bosses. Finally, she has a nice passive that whenever this champion is healed, she heals each ally except this champion by 20% of that heal. So it basically turns any single target heals on Naya into AoE heals, or any AoE heals that land on Naya, it's going to strengthen those on everybody else. Build her tanky, think about a regen set, because that ally protection out there is going to make her take extra damage. And if you want to land that decreased speed, make sure you have enough accuracy on her. But primarily, a lot of defense, a lot of HP, maybe a regen or a mortal set, or a guardian set, or a bolster set, or something of that nature that's going to help keep her alive. Okay, so our next epic champion is Skraank from the Ogryn Tribes faction. Now, this is an excellent damage dealer, and he's going to get a lot of value out of this A3, which is an AoE HP burn. So if you don't yet have an AoE HP burner, and you have Skraank, now you do. This is a 100% chance to land that HP burn. Remember, he is void affinity, so as long as he has accuracy, he won't weak hit. This also fills his turn meter by 15% if at least one enemy is hit with a critical hit. You can consider building him with a 100% crit rate as well. He hits decently hard, but that makes him a bit stat hungry. If you're trying to get the accuracy and the crit rate onto him, either you're going to need very good gear, or you may have to sacrifice one of these damage sources for the other. So if you really need an AoE HP burner, maybe don't worry so much about the crit rate. If you can get it up to 60 or 70%, that's great, a little bit of extra damage, but really focus on that accuracy. His A1 has a 40% chance of placing Weaken, and then that increases to 75% if the target is already under HP burn. So get those HP burns out there and then hit the boss with the Weaken. This is going to do great work for you, especially in Spider, but you can also use it anywhere that an HP burn is effective. For instance, in Hydra. The A2 is a double hitter, which will heal him on critical hits. So again, if you can get that critical rate up, you're going to get a little extra sustain out of his kit. And this will also place an increased attack buff on this champion if the target is under HP burn debuffs. Finally, his passive increases his attack and crit damage by 5% every time an HP burn debuff triggers on any enemy, and that stacks up to 25%. So again, if you can get to the 100% crit rate, you're going to get extra attack, you're going to get extra crit damage up to 25% of each. So he really does great direct damage, and he also does the HP burn job. So you're getting kind of 2 damage rolls out of one champion, and he's Void Affinity. So no weak hits, really good damage dealer, really usable everywhere in the game. One thing you may want to consider is he is not an HP burn activator or extender. Now that's fine, you don't need activation or extension to get a lot of damage out of HP burns, but that means you could pair him up with a second HP burner to get even more value. Okay, our next epic is Skimfos the Consumed. I've mentioned him a few times before, but I definitely think he deserves a spot on this list. This is a very undervalued champion. I don't think he gets much discussion. I certainly didn't think about him until about 6 months ago when I pulled him on one of my referral accounts, and I realized how powerful he could be. His A2 is very nice. It's a double hitter. The first hit has a 45% chance of placing decreased speed. The second hit has a 45% chance of decreasing the turn meter of the target by 10%. So this is a really great A1 for Fire Knight. Double hitter to help break the shield, decrease speed to slow the Fire Knight down, and even some turn meter decrease. It's not a lot, but everything in this A1 is good. The A2 is an AoE. It hits decently hard if you build him for damage, and this has a 100% chance of placing a decrease attack debuff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So again, if you're still looking for that decrease attack champion, he can do that job. In addition, he will suck up all of the debuffs on your team and put them on himself. Now, he won't remove any CCs, except for slow, but he'll pull all the poisons, HP burns, decrease attacks, decrease defenses. He'll pull every debuff onto himself. Now, that may seem strange at first, but you're going to notice 2 things in his kit in the next 2 skills. The A3 will transfer all of those debuffs onto a target enemy. So when he hits the enemy with the A3, if he's already used his A2, all of the buffs now go from your team onto the enemy target. And then in addition, this deals 100% of the target's turn meter if the attack is critical. Now you're going to want him to have 100% crit rate because this is 100% turn meter steal. So this is on a 3-turn cooldown, but if he gets 100% steal, he's going to go again almost instantaneously. So he's basically getting an extra turn out of this steal, in addition to reducing the turn meter of the target. And then the final thing is his passive. So when he starts that turn, before he actually transfers the debuffs, he's going to get a heal of 5% for each debuff on him at the start of that turn. So if he has 10 debuffs, he's going to get a 50% HP heal. And if he's under 4 or more debuffs, he's going to get an increased attack and an increased crit damage buff on himself. So that's going to make that A3 hit even harder. He's got good base speed, good base attack, decent defense, but he is low on HP, so he can be a little bit squishy, and you do want to build him with some survivability. So another stat-hungry champion, you need accuracy, you need crit rate, and then you need damage stats, plus you want to make him at least survivable enough to be worthwhile. So if you can't do all of that right away, that's okay. Just make sure that he does his main job really well for you, whether that's as a cleanser or as a turn meter decreaser. Okay, our 9th champion is Runekeeper Dazdirk. Now, if you watch my channel, you know how much I love this guy, and you may be surprised that I haven't put him on a list like this yet, but this is the first opportunity I'm actually getting to add him to any kind of top 10 list. Runekeeper Dazdirk is an amazingly powerful champion, especially if you get him early in the game, but anytime you get him, you're going to find a place to use this champion. His stats are fantastic. 20k HP, 1255 defense. He's got 105 base speed. So what does he bring? He brings everything you possibly need from a support. He has a leech on his A1. He is defensive based, by the way, so build him as tanky as you can, and he'll actually do a little bit of damage on this A1. It sometimes surprises me how hard this A1 hits. His A2 has an increased attack for all allies and a turn meter fill of 25%, which makes him a god on a go-first arena team. His A3 removes all debuffs from all allies, so it is a full team cleanse, then heals everybody by 25% of his max HP. And remember, he's got a nice, healthy HP pool, so that is going to be a big heal for your team. And then in addition, if anybody had anything cleansed, he gives them an extra 15% continuous heal buff. Finally, his aura is a little bit weird. It is ally attack in all battles by 25%. That's a nice aura. The reason it's weird is because he's a defensive-based champion, but he's also bringing increased attack on his kit. So if you need a lot of attack in your composition, he's going to help you get those attack numbers. The only thing in Runekeeper Dazzler's kit that requires accuracy is the leech. So if you don't need him for the leech, you can just forego all accuracy. Build him fast as you can. Build him tanky. And if you want to get some resist on him because he's your cleanser, then make sure that he's not going to get stunned or frozen so he can cleanse the rest of the team's debuffs. Phenomenal champion. I use him everywhere. I use him in Clan Boss. I use him in Arena. I use him in Dungeons. I use him in Doom Tower. If you've got this champion, you can probably envision a way to use him. Great kit. One of my favorite champions. Okay, and the last champion on our list for today is Maneater. Now, Maneater is famous for being an unkillable champ, and he can help you create an unkillable Clan Boss speed tune. But I'm here to tell you that he's valuable for a lot of reasons. Even if you don't have the unkillable composition yet, you're going to want to start building your Maneater because he can be an all-around carry. If you look at his stats, nice HP pool, good defense, good base speed, some resistance. He's void affinity, and he's a debuffer, so the fact that he won't weak hit is really good. Let's take a look at his A1. This attacks one enemy, but it places a decreased attack debuff on all enemies if this attack is critical. You're going to want to build him with a 100% crit rate. But this is a really easy, simple way to get decreased attack out there on whatever you need it on. So even in a killable Clan Boss team, he's going to bring you some value here with this decreased attack if you don't have that on one of the other champions on your composition. The A2, again, single target, but it fully depletes the target's turn meter and then fills this champion's turn meter equal to the amount the target loses. This is the old school way of saying turn meter steal. So 100% turn meter steal. This actually fully depletes the target's turn meter. So technically this can steal more than 100%. It's maybe the best single target turn meter steal in the game. The A3 is the unkillable buff, but it also places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 5-turn cooldown. Now, Maneater will hurt himself when he puts up this buff. He actually receives damage equal to 5% of his max HP for each ally who is alive. That's not a big concern with the unkillable buff up, but you may want to build some sustain into the team or into his kit to help heal up this damage that he's going to self-inflict. Finally, he has a nice aura of ally HP in dungeons by 33%. That is definitely usable in dungeons if you don't have a speed aura on your team. Maneater is a really great champion that is usable in dungeons. Really, all of the dungeons he's going to be valuable. He can be valuable against wave content, even though he's a single target hitter because of that AoE decrease attack and also the turn meter steal. Plus, remember, he adds to the survivability of your team with that unkillable buff and that block debuffs buff. Great champion, can be a hard carry for an early game account. Put him in every team that you have. You'll be happy that you did. Okay, so there you have it. Those are 2 rares and 8 epics, all voids that can do a ton of work for you, whether you are in the early game, mid game, or even working towards the late game. There's a lot of value to be had in these champions. So did you pull one of these champions this weekend? If you did, please let me know in the comments below. Or maybe you've already built one of these champions from a previous event and let me know exactly how much value you found that these champions can give you. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Consider joining our Discord community. It's a lot of fun over there. Thanks so much for hanging out. I've been Colred, and I will see you in another video soon.